Welcome to the Human Being Unleashed podcast, where we redefine, realign, and reimagine what it means to be human so that you can live a life with the health, wealth, and relationships that are inherently yours. What is going on, podcast fam? Took a week off. I am back. I already had a interview scheduled to release today, but I had an amazing experience this past weekend and really the past couple of weeks, and I felt like it was necessary for me to actually come and share this right now because it's so fresh for me. It was such a tangible change in my being. The lesson I learned from stripping down into a G-string. The life-changing lesson. And the life-changing experience it was. And by the way, it wasn't really like a full-on G-string, but we're talking like some super small Speedos style underwear. But yes, I'm not going to talk about where, how, why, with whom I did this with, or where this happened. But I experienced something at an event where I was challenged to do something way outside of my comfort zone. If you know anything about me, if you know me, you know that I am not a dancer, or up until now, in the past, I've been very insecure with dancing. Trying to be the cool guy who's, has his back against the wall or is, barely moving, because I thought I was not a good dancer, or I just did not feel comfortable dancing. And so I never did around anybody. And it's always been a really insecure thing for me to do. It's a dance, period. And so you can imagine when it comes to being pushed outside of my comfort zone, being challenged not only to dance in front of people, but to strip in front of people. And I mean like legitimately stripping, guys. We're talking some Magic Mike shit right now. You can imagine the level of anxiety and fear I felt the moment I was given that assignment, the moment I was challenged to own that assignment. And by own it, I mean see it through to the end. The amount of fear that came up was more fear than I've had in a really long time. I've been pitching investors now for this new Zamio company. I've reached out to big organizations for partnerships. I've done so many things that, bring the heebie-jeebies out of me. And, I almost died kayaking, and I have so much fear around kayaking. I had more fear to dancing than I did to go back and kayak again. It was exponential, but I was able to take something away that changed my life forever. Because as I realized how scared I was, I made a commitment that I made publicly in front of 28 other individuals, including staff, with almost like 40 individuals. I made a commitment, so I couldn't go back on it. And so I noticed as I, went out and bought the outfits, I dressed up as a cop. As I went and bought the outfits, I realized the more and more time went on, the more and more serious it felt, the more real it felt, and the more scared I got, the more bubbly my guts got. And as we actually got to the moment, we were there getting ready to dance, me and a couple of guys. It was just, me and a bunch of men stripped in front of a group. And, not a bunch of men. It was like 3 other people who were there. Or 3 other people who were on my team. And the moment we get up there and start stripping, the moment that we get up there and the music's getting ready to play, I noticed I couldn't even breathe. My heart was racing out of my chest. I was scared as I had ever been in my life before. And then the music started, and me and my buddies, we did a little choreographing. So, like, when it was my cue to do my thing, oh my God, I had no choice. I was in front of all these people. I had to do it. So I immediately started going into my dance, started dancing, started moving in ways I've never moved before, but feeling very nervous the entire time. And then a part of the song came where I took off my hat because I had a police hat on. And I took off the gloves I was wearing. And I realized as I was removing the gloves, all my fear disappeared. And it just turned into this exuberant state of bliss. Like this exuberant state of pure childlike joy when I removed those gloves. And as I removed my tie, I remember feeling like there was nothing to protect anymore. Like I took my tie off and I, waved it around and I threw it into the crowd. And as I threw my tie into the crowd, I realized I threw this need to protect myself away. I realized the only reason I was scared to dance was because that was just a mirror of me being so scared of being judged. In other words, me being scared of being seen in my fullness. Because whenever I took that tie off and all my fear disappeared, a level of spontaneity, a level of childlike play that has always existed in me, but I've always kept away, showed up more than ever before. And then all of a sudden, this part of myself that I held away for so long just showed up, full on, full out, all in. And the best part about it was the unconditional love I felt from the crowd as I began to remove even more clothes and more clothes and more clothes. It was like the more clothes I removed, the more layers that I removed. Yo, what's up? If you are digging the podcast, if you are finding value inside of this podcast, I would absolutely love if you helped me help more people by getting the word out there, and you can do that in a couple of ways. Number one, hit me with the subscribe button if you have not done so. Number two, rate this so it can rate this whatever you feel like is something that it actually deserves to be rated. Number three, take a screenshot, share this on your social media. Number four, just click the share button and share this episode with somebody you know who this can really, really help. Now, back to the show. I realized this entire time I've been living my life trying to protect not only an image, but protect myself from feeling like there is something wrong with me or feeling ashamed about just being who I am. And one of the things about me is I'm a very spontaneous and playful person on the inside. But I've always been scared of letting that be seen because as a man, you shouldn't be that playful. Or as a man, we have to be a certain way. And as I experienced this like real tangible change in the way that I carried myself, I realized that if I lived my entire life like this, not stripping and getting naked everywhere I go, but if I lived my entire life with no image to protect, with no self to protect, yes, I would be seen and it would be vulnerable. But the world will experience a level of play and unconditional love because it's coming out of me. And that will bring it back, which will create more and more and more of it. But it starts with me expressing my deepest and truest self with pure love, pure joy. And that gives other people the possibility of experiencing that, which gives life to them that they can then give back to others. But those people in that crowd would have never experienced that childlike joy if I was too scared to show it and share it and express it full out. Ultimate expression. If I was too scared, it would have just I would have robbed everybody in that moment of I would have robbed everybody in that room of a true moment of joy, of spontaneity that so many of us grow out of. And another participant who was at the event with me, she didn't do the dancing, but she did something else. She stood up and shared that through her own experience, she learned that her freedom was hiding inside of all of her fears. And when she said that, that hit me. I was like, wow. Freedom is inside of your fears. And you'll rob yourself of freedom if you want to hide behind every one of your fears. So ask yourself right now, what in life scares the shit out of you? What are you scared of looking at right now? Something in your life may be causing you to avoid it. What are you avoiding? What are you insecure about? What are you scared of doing? And I challenge you to strip away the fears that you have. Or not strip away the fears that you have. The fear is there. But strip away the idea that somehow, some way, you're safe behind this fear. Strip that idea away. Go full on to what you're scared of. And I absolutely assure you, I guarantee you, you will experience a level of freedom you've never felt before in your life. And not only will it be for a moment, but when you actually take your neurons through an experience like that, your neural pathways to act in a different way than they usually do, they get challenged to a brand new experience and they change. I can confidently and honestly say, since that dance, since that strip off, I have felt the most free I have in my entire life. I've done more things in terms of I've done bigger things. I've made bigger decisions just this week alone that have put me in a different place already in my business and in my personal relationships. And that was another big thing for me, was just how disconnected I have been with my personal relationships. That was another big takeaway from this past week. And I've really honed in on being intentional with my relationships now, especially with my parents and my immediate family. But back to what I was saying is your freedom only exists outside of the scariest parts that you're avoiding right now. And another thing is, what part of yourself are you hiding? What part of yourself are you too scared to let other people see? And imagine what would happen if you let that out. And I know you may be saying, I know, but what if people don't like it? Just imagine that, yeah, some people didn't like it. But imagine that you showing that truly helped people, moved people, inspired people in a way to live a better life. If you knew for a fact that you showing your deepest and truest authentic self would do that for others, how would you approach this entire thing? Would you still hold yourself back? Or would you be willing to give other people the gift of full expression by watching you fully express yourself? Because I promise, the world needs expression more than anything. There are so many people who are suffering on the inside because they are holding themselves in. And when I say by holding themselves in, I mean there's parts of themselves that they're hiding from the world. And those parts of themselves are very alive. And when you hold that in, your nervous system starts to really, really, really do some weird things. And you start to experience these blocks that people love to talk about. So, takeaways. Live your life like there's nothing to protect. Live your life like there is no self to protect. Next thing is bring those parts of yourself that you're hiding outwardly. I promise you it'll save you in ways you could have never imagined being saved and changed. Then lastly, you rob people of expression of a full life by living a half life yourself. If all you do is put your toes in the water, the people who look up to you are going to be too scared to fully dive in and go all in. And you and I both know that you only learn how to swim whenever you jump in the water.